Top Speed. My name is Christy, and today in our garage is the 2009 Land Rover LR2 HSE. The LR2 is a compact SUV made by Land Rover. It was first known as the Freelander. Production of the first generation Freelander started in 1996. There were a variety of models based around a 4-door SUV and 2-door softback, which is like a semi-convertible. Unfortunately, poor sales of the Freelander caused Land Rover to discontinue the Freelander after 2006 in the United States and in Canada. In 2007, the Freelander 2 was born, and it was first introduced at the 2006 British International Motor Show. The new model retained the Freelander nameplate in Europe, but is marketed as the LR2 in North America. The LR2 is powered by a transversely mounted 3.2 inline 6-cylinder engine, same as the Volvo SI6 series. This engine has a fuel economy of 15 city and 22 highway. The starting price for the Land Rover LR2 is $35,375. Our test vehicle has a price of $44,000, and that's because it's loaded with the lighting package, satin silver trim package, optional black exterior paint, and technology package. So now, let's go outside with Miles and check out this Land Rover LR2.
Thanks, Christy. This is our 2009 Land Rover LR2 HSE model. Now, this is a pity though, because this car is never going to see mud on it. I say that because most Land Rover owners don't take their car off-road. They're very capable off-roaders, but the image that the Land Rover has, people will not take these things in the mud. And to really understand that, you got to go back to the beginning. Back at the end of World War II, about 60 years ago, Britain was in complete shambles, and Rover was trying to get back into the business of making cars, but the British government said, wait, no, we're not going to let you do that. We got to put all our resources to the things that are going to help us rebuild our empire. So Rover went back to the drawing boards. They said, okay, fine. How about instead we make a vehicle that's going to haul all your building materials. We're going to have a vehicle that the farmers are going to be able to plow the fields with. It's going to be a general utility vehicle. Basically, a Jeep with a British accent. And the government said, absolutely, build it. And the first Land Rover was born. Now that car, well, it wasn't even supposed to last that long, but it's still relatively in production today in Land Rover's Defender model. And the thing about it is though, along the way, Rover realized, first of all, they're usually a builder of luxury cars, and second of all, a lot of the people that bought Land Rovers were wealthy landowners and they could use a few more creature comforts. So in the 70s, the Range Rover was born. And that really was the first luxury SUV. And to put it on top of that, in the US, for a very long time, Range Rover never officially imported cars here, which means they were that much more rare and they became that more prestigious. So Land Rover always had that prestige image in the US. Flash forward to now, where Land Rovers are obviously officially imported to the US, but well, they have that luxury image. They have that such prestige to them that people don't know just how good of off-roaders they are. Now, take a look at the car we have here, for example. We have great departure angles at the rear. We have a great approach angle. This thing can really go off-road. 19-inch wheels, 4x4 tires. The ground clearance isn't that great, but it really can handle itself. But the real problem is this car is going to be bought by somebody who's going to say, I may be a CPA, but, well, I've got a kayak in my garage somewhere. And it's that fake weekend warrior who's going to use this car only for city driving. That means really we're only going to be doing a city test of this car. First and foremost in the LR2 are the seats. Now, this is an SUV, so you know you're not going to get the same seats like you're going to get in a sports car. But you also don't want to drown in a sea of plushness. And that's where these really come in. Is that they've got a lot of support, but you also know that they're going to be good on a long trip. And a big part of that are the armrests. These are infinitely adjustable almost. And, well, that really means you're going to get a good driving position, and that also means you're going to have a really good driving experience. Now, the rest of the car is laid out pretty well. We have a touchscreen DVD-based navigation system here. And, well, if you're familiar with the Jaguar system, it's going to look very similar. And it makes sense because, well, this car was developed, as well as most Jaguar cars were developed under Ford, and now they're both corporate siblings of Tata. So, quite frankly, the similarities are more than coincidence. One thing that's peculiar about this, though, is it's just a navigation system. On other cars, you get it more as a command center where it has radio controls and automatic climate controls and things like that. But this one has separate buttons for it, and, well, some people think that it might not be a bad idea to actually not have to cycle through a nav system just to be able to change your radio, so we'll let you be the judge of that. Instead, the radio controls are directly below the nav screen, as well as an automatic climate control, and everything's laid out well. It's very simple, and that's always a good thing. One of the things that we especially like is that we get a ride control feature here. It's just a quick little knob which you can turn, and it goes for snow, it goes for sand, it goes for gravel, whatever your terrain is, you can dial it in this car, and that's really a great hallmark that Land Rover has. Again, you're not going to be taking this car that much off-road, but if you ever actually decide to do what this car is made for, this is a great thing to have. It's just at your fingertips. Everything else in the car, though, the materials feel very good, and that's, well, it's a good thing because the Freelander car that this replaces, well, the materials felt a little bit cheaper. This one, though, everything has a nice touch to it. It feels soft, the plastics are good, the chrome is good, the leather is very nice. And it needs to be because this car comes in at about $35,000. With some of the extras that we got, such as the DVD navigation screen or the HSE trim package, or some of the paint package that we got, this car now tops out at $44,000. And what we're doing now is we're starting to get into higher territory. We're starting to get into the territory of the BMW X3, the X5, and cars like the Mercedes GLK. And so you really want to make sure you're getting a lot of car for your money. And what the great thing about this Land Rover here is you get a feeling like, well, it's sort of like a baby Range Rover, and for this, that's a very good thing. One of the great things about Land Rovers are they make sure that they keep their instrumentation very low, which means you get a lot of glass around you to get a really good view. That's especially good in off-roading settings because, well, you get to see all the obstacles in your way. Also works well in a city setting because you get to see all the obstacles in your way. But this is what this car is at heart. It's an SUV, which means it's going to float over the bumps, and you're probably not going to want to take turns at too high speeds. Now, with that said, it's also very much wanting to go off-road. As we showed you before, you can even select the terrain that you want in the full-time all-wheel drive. But we said before, this is an image car. You're not going to be taking this off-road. You're really just going to be using it in a city setting. So we'll tell you about what it's like on-road, and that means it's crisp. It's very crisp in the ride. It's very crisp in the steering. In fact, it shares a lot of its underpinnings with the Volvo XC70, and with that car, we also described it as very crisp. Now, the XC70, we also described it as a very large car, a very heavy car, and the LR2 is the same way. The LR2 weighs in at about 2 US tons, and, well, that's a lot for the 230 horsepower to work through. And so, like we said before, it's an image car, and so if you got all that horsepower, you're probably not going to want to make that much of a fast getaway anyway.
Well, that's all we have for today on the 2009 Land Rover LR2 HSE. Tune in next time for next test drive.